Okay, so we are talking about the unit circle. So we did a lot about it in class today, but this is just going to be the continuation. So the first thing we're going to do, I have labeled the first quadrant, and we're going to go ahead and put the degrees on the other quadrants. And so you do need to memorize this, but we're going to figure out how really it's just a pattern. Okay, so you can see here, this is obviously going to be 180 degrees. And then down here would be 270. Okay, so we know the quarters, and then we're just going to go ahead and fill in each of the degrees here. So we know halfway between here, we know that this is 45. So this is going to be 45 more, so this would be 135. And these are separated by 15. So we can see here, this is going to be 120. And that would make this 150. Alright, and then we'll keep going here. We know that there's always a 30-degree gap first, so if I add 30 degrees to this, this would be 210 plus 15 plus 15, and then plus a 30 again, and then 30, so 300, 315, 330, and then of course it'll go back to 360 again. Okay, so the degrees are pretty easy. You can see the pattern, and now we're going to go ahead and fill in the radians. So I filled in the first quadrant for you. You can see it goes sixths, fourths, and thirds, and then halves. So we know that all the way over here is going to be pi. Okay, and so hopefully you should see if this is half pi, and this is pi, this would be 1.5 pi, but we write 3 pi over 2. So 3 pi over 2. And then when we get to here, this would be back to 2 pi or 0. So we'll write 2 pi here. That's all the way around. Okay, now the fourths. So if we have 1/4 here, then this would be 2/4. This one would be 3/4. So I could do 3/4 pi. This would be 4/4 or 1. This right here is 5/4. So 5 pi, 5/4 pi. 6/4, which is the same as 3 halves. And then here would be 7/4. Alright, so there's our fourths. That's pretty easy. Now we're going to go ahead and do our thirds. Okay, so here is 1/3 here. And so 1/3 is at 60 degrees. And so then we know at 120 degrees it's going to be 2/3, right? So I'll put 2/3 pi right here. Okay, now, so it's going to be every 60 degrees is going to be a third. So we have 1/3, 2/3, and then when we get to another 60 degrees, that would be 3/3, which we know is the same as 1. Okay, so another 60 degrees is going to take me down to 240, so that's going to be 4/3. Okay, so we have 4/3, and then when I get over another 60 degrees, right here is going to be 5/3. And then another 60 degrees is going to get me back to 6/3, which is 2 pi. So there's my thirds. Okay, so now I'm going to do my sixths. So those are going to be all the ones left. So I have 1/6 here. Okay, so 1/6 is going to be 30 degrees, right? So when I get to here, that's 2/6, but that's the same as 1/3. And then we have 3/6, which is, again, pi over 2. Okay, then 4/6, which is 2/3. And then I have 5/6 here. So this would be 5 pi over 6. So notice we're adding in all the ones that can't simplify. So every 30 degrees is a sixth. However, I'm not going to put all them in because like 6/6 is the same as 1. So I don't write 6/6, that's just pi. Okay, so now another 30 degrees would be 7/6. So that one I'm going to put in here. 7 pi over 6. Okay, and then another 30 degrees here. So if I go another 30 degrees, there's my next sixth. So that's 7/6. This is 8/6, which of course simplifies to 4/3. Now, when I do another 30 degrees, I have 9/6, which is 3 halves. Then my next 30 degrees would be 10/6, which is 5/3. Another 30 degrees would bring us to 11/6. And another 30 degrees would bring us to 12/6, which would be the same as 2 pi. Okay, so now when we talk about the green part of here, so these are just going to repeat. So you can see based on reflection that this point over here, that's 5/6, is the same as pi over 6. So remember we talked about reference angles, and so if you have this one that's actually all the way around, it will be equal to the reference angle. So root 3 over 2, 1/2, that's going to be the same over here, except for the x-coordinate is going to turn negative. So right here would be negative root 3 over 2, and then the y-coordinate is still going to be positive, because we're still going at a positive value. So here, this is 3/4 pi, and so my reference angle would be pi over 4. And so it's going to be the same as this, but the x is going to be negative. So I'll have negative root 2 over 2, and then I'll have root 2 over 2. This one is going to be the same as pi over 3, so it's going to be negative 1/2, and pi over 3 too. Okay, so you're always going to use the first quadrant as your reference angle. Of course, when you go down to here, they're going to be the same, so it'll be the same as this point here, except it's going to be both negatives. And then when you get to this quadrant, the x is going to be positive and the y is going to be negative. So go ahead and take a minute to pause and fill in the rest.